Hey everyone. I'm actually recording this a day after I originally recorded episode 180, and I talked through what you're going to see in a minute here. I talked to Shemar Stewart's agent and had a dialogue to get more details for you guys. That'll be added at the end of the show, so stick around. I'm speculating on Thursday for the first 20 something minutes when you're watching that and trying to piece everything together. But now there's been more context added, and that will be at the end. So stick around for that.
Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. And last episode, we ended up doing a more of a talking episode because we had some issues watching film. But a lot of news happened. The Bengals had mandatory minicamp. And I figured with the Shemar Stewart situation, I should talk it out. And there was a lot to talk about. And I want to present both sides because I think people are taking sides when they shouldn't. Honestly, there's no sides to take here. It's going to get done eventually. He's going to sign with the Bengals eventually. We're not supposed to see these parts of the negotiation, but we have, and that's going to be one of my points. But I want to try and present both sides and understand what's going on from the best knowledge I can. I've tried to talk to as many people as I can. I've tried to talk to people that work with contracts, work with contractual law, people that would know and study these things to help me get an understanding of what's common, what's not common, what's reasonable to ask. And I think I can piece it together for you and give my take on it while also trying to be neutral because that's the way I feel. I've said both sides, whether you're following me on Twitter at Joe Goodberry, and if you have, you see me tweet some things out, some things that I've deleted since I read some of it back and I was like, probably shouldn't have said this, probably shouldn't have shown these things. And so I'm trying to learn and correct as I go, but I will talk about them. And I hope you take my word for them because the people that did see some of the things I tweeted, I will talk about it. So first, what's the situation? Shemar Stewart has not practiced yet with the team. He's the only rookie in the NFL, the entire NFL, that is basically holding out for his contract, his rookie contract, which is weird, right? Because the CBA in 2011, the collective bargaining agreement between the union and the NFL, settled this for the most part because they made the rookie wage scale pretty standard, pretty easy, simple to negotiate. How much you're getting paid, what your signing bonus is, all that, your money's figured out. The things that aren't figured out sometimes are the language and when that money is going to hit in terms of signing bonus payout and stuff like that. So when you look at this for first rounders, their contract is guaranteed. They're going to make exactly what they're supposed to make based on their draft slot. It doesn't really matter. There's not much you can do. That's point number one. You have to understand that. It's set in stone. There's some wiggle room on contract language, default language, and payouts. And then you have Shemar Stewart here with the Bengals, slotted at pick 17, should know exactly his worth. Pick 16, Walter Nolan. Pick 18, Gray Zabel have already signed their deals. There's only a handful of first rounders that haven't signed yet. And then pretty much all the second rounders that haven't signed. Why haven't the second rounder signed? Little sidebar here. Because one guy got a fully guaranteed contract as a second rounder, which hasn't happened. Now all these other second rounders want fully guaranteed deals. Of course they do. Or at least the guys that are next to, I think it was Jaden Higgins, right? That also would like fully guaranteed contracts. So the second round is going to be a story as we get closer to training camp, and these dominoes need to start falling. But for Shemar Stewart, he's not participating. So he's put the spotlight on himself a little bit. Most guys, when they're not signed yet, they will participate. There is an injury waiver you can sign that protects you in case you get hurt. You still get your contract. We've seen it happen. Guys do get hurt. It's rare. But these camps are typically lower pace, slower pace, low on contact. low on stress. They ramp it up a little bit. This mandatory minicamp had a little bit more speed to it, but no one's wearing pads. But you can get non-contact injuries. That happens all the time. Rare, but happens at least every year. A guy goes down that's a rookie. And maybe he has his contract, maybe he doesn't. But the injury protection, the waiver protects you. So he has not agreed to that part. He doesn't want to participate till he gets his deal. And largely that's because of leverage, because he is unhappy with what the Bengals are currently offering him. Now that that's set, right? We've got a stalemate. The Bengals are offering this. Shemar Stewart's camp does not agree to it. And he says, we are not going to practice until we get this hammered out. Now, what is the argument? There may be some speculation here, of course. We have to play in the sandbox of what has been widely reported. If any of this is incorrect and not true, and I'll tell you why I'm putting this disclaimer on there in a second, but if any of what we're assuming is true based on reports from multiple outlets, we're discussing within that sandbox. We're playing in that sandbox. Because Adam Schefter was on the Pat McAfee show on Thursday, and he said what the Bengals are doing is unique. And what the Bengals are doing, they'd like to cut a player throughout his contract and not be on the hook for the guaranteed money. And that does not sound right. That is not what we have read. That is not what has been reported. If they were doing that, that would be pretty radical, and that would change the entire conversation of what we're talking about. I don't even know if they can actually do that. I don't even know if you could, like, what's guaranteed is what's guaranteed, unless, and here's where we get to what's been reported and what we think is actually happening. Every contract in the NFL has language that would say if you default, if you don't hold up your end of the bargain on a contract, talking about the player, your signing bonuses, your workout bonuses, your guaranteed money for that year can be voided, can be null and void. And what this means is every team says, hey, if you talk bad about us in the media, if you get arrested, if you make us look bad in a lot of different ways, if you're bungee jumping, if you're playing basketball or beach volleyball and tear your knee up, if you are doing anything reckless like speeding or racing and you get hurt, if you get suspended for gambling or anything, drugs, marijuana, what doesn't, I don't need to get in specifics. If you get suspended for whatever, it could be performance enhancing drugs, you can default on your contract, and now your guaranteed money is still earnable. You can still earn it by hitting all those markers, your workout bonus and reporting it to camp and whatever the bonuses are in there, whatever the guaranteed money is. You can still earn that, but it's not guaranteed anymore, right? We've known about this. The Carl Pickens clause. If you're an old Bengals fan, the Carl Pickens clause, you can't talk bad about the organization or make the organization look bad. You might get one time where we're going to look the other way, but after multiple occurrences, the Bengals or any team can default. Your contract could go into default. Your player can go into default. Now, what is different here? Why doesn't because every NFL contract has that. Everyone. What is different for this? Well, because rookies have fully guaranteed contracts as first round picks, and we know all that money is guaranteed. Teams, and some teams have done this for the last few years now, have put in there the default language that if you do any of these things, the following years or the remaining years on the contract, the guaranteed money also becomes null and void. You can still earn it, but it is no longer guaranteed. While some contracts say if you do it, let's say you get suspended for 6 games for gambling, Jameson Williams, or the full season, right? Was Jameson Williams the full season? Was it Jameson Williams? I think it was for the Lions. Let's say you get suspended. Calvin Ridley did this, right? You get suspended for the season. They're saying that money, that guaranteed money is no longer guaranteed. And they can cut you and it's not guaranteed, whatever it may be. But some contracts say that now in 2025, 2026, 2027, that affects, if you do that in 2024, that affects all the remaining years. And they're all now null and void in terms of guaranteed money. It doesn't mean the contract doesn't exist anymore. It means the guaranteed money is now not guaranteed. There's some contracts that say that. There are some contracts that say if you do that in 2024, your money in 2024 is not guaranteed. But 2025, you're back on good graces. 25 is now guaranteed, 26, 27. So you got to have a little bit of a difference there. How many teams do this? There are teams like the Eagles that put it in every single one of their contracts. The Seahawks put it in every single one of their contracts that if you default, your guaranteed money in all following years is now not guaranteed anymore. I believe the Bills do this. We saw this with Von Miller when he got domestic violence last offseason, I think it was. And they talked about how much money now is not guaranteed because people were like, oh, they can cut him and save this much money now that they couldn't previously. There are a lot of teams that do this, especially with veteran contracts. I've seen Bengals contracts, current contracts that have this or have a year by year default language. And you got to understand the Bengals don't typically give multi-year guarantees. We talked about this for how long? We're talking about free agency, talking about extensions. They don't give multi-year guarantees, so they've never really worried about it. If the guy defaults this year, that's the guaranteed money. Future years, not a problem. But they have seen the rest of the league start to move towards rookie contracts having this language that if you default, your future years of guaranteed money are null and void. The Bengals are trying to jump onto this. They have not done this in the past. They didn't do it with Myles Murphy. They didn't do it with Marius Mims. Now, there is some talk that the Bengals tried to do it with Murphy, and they tried to do it with Mims as well. But that's when negotiations happen. Negotiations take place, and those guys got it removed for whatever trade-off happened. We don't know what the trade-off is. That's how negotiations work. We want this. We want this. Well, I'll give you this if you take this. Take this out and add that in. Whatever it may be. It can be a bunch of things. It could be getting my signing bonus earlier. There are players that say, all right, fine, give me 80% of my signing bonus right away, and you can give me the other 20% later. Because teams typically split it 50-50, give you half now, give you the other half within 60 days. Well, that's negotiable. We can move that around. That can be flexible. You want all your money now? We can do that now. So what you see, so I already mentioned the Eagles. The Eagles do this with everyone. Jahad Campbell agreed to it. Saquon Barkley agreed to it. Their money, their future guarantees, if they default, are void. The Chiefs, last year with Xavier Worthy, did it. The two teams, to be referencing Shemar Stewart at 17, the two teams picking at 16 and 18, Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks, we know both those teams have signed their first-round rookie. We don't know yet for sure if they gave them this default language where their future years will be voided. But we can look at the previous year, and Byron Murphy and Marvin Harrison Jr. both have that in their contracts. And I said the Seahawks always do it, so I'm assuming Gray Zabel has it as well. It's fair to assume if Marvin Harrison Jr. has it, Walter Nolan did have some issues off the field, right? There was some talk about it. I will guarantee Walter Nolan probably has the same language. So Shemar Stewart is saying, here's where we get to the crux now. Shemar Stewart is saying, I don't want that. I know there's 20 other first-round picks that have agreed to this, give or take, let's say. I asked somebody, they said 20 at least. And this is somebody I trust that does this stuff. So it's not uncommon for the Bengals to ask Shemar Stewart to say, hey, if you do anything or anything happens to you, your future years of guaranteed money becomes voided. Shemar Stewart saying, I don't want that. I don't want that in my contract because you didn't do it with the two guys that have multiple years of guaranteed money. You didn't do it with Jamar Chase. You didn't do it with Joe Burrow. And the only other guys that would apply are your first-round picks, and you haven't done it with Myles Murphy, and you didn't do it with, I should be saying didn't for all those. You didn't do it for Myles Murphy. You didn't do it for Marius Mims. Why should I be the first one to do it? You don't do it for anyone else on the team. Who am I? Why are you picking me out? Why should I be the one? Am I such a concern for you that if I make one mistake, my future years are voided. When these other guys aren't dealing with that on the team, no one else is dealing with that on the team, but I have to. Why me? Why am I the first one? What has given you the indication that I would be anything less than a model citizen? Right? If that was you at your job and they approached you with extensions or however it works at your job, raises at the end of the year, evaluations, and they said everyone's getting raises, but your raise is contingent on you not saying anything about us on social media, or we're going to take this away. And you're the only one that got that offered. You might be like, why would I agree to that? No one else does it. But that's where the large confusion is coming in. We've seen the reports now on what the Bengals are offering and why that's a dispute for Shemar Stewart. The only reason we know this is because of Shemar's side of things. Shemar's camp. That would never come out of the Bengals camp. You never hear about it. Most teams, most of these rookie contracts, you never hear about the negotiations. Ever. There's negotiations on every one of these deals, give and take with all of them. A little bit at least. Not money, but when things happen, timing of things, timing of payments, languages. There's negotiations on all this. You don't hear about it. They just get done. We're hearing about it. That's weird. That means we're talking a little bit too much through the media, likely from Shemar Stewart's side. I disagree with that. If you want to get my opinion finally on something, I disagree with it. I would not be doing that. I said on Twitter, I think Shemar's getting bad advice after he left Cincinnati today, or on Thursday, the last day of mandatory minicamp. I wouldn't have told him to leave. I wouldn't have told him to not practice. I wouldn't have had him talking through the media. I would not be taking back channels to let the media know what is happening during negotiations. It's a negotiation, and the Bengals are tough negotiators. You turn to the media right away, that you're not going to win their favor, and you have ultimately want them to budge. Now, I don't do contracts for a living. I have done contracts, but that's not what I do. I just think that's bad advice all around. This is a guy that could use the reps, right? Development-wise, he needs that stuff. Number 2, Trey Hendrickson's not there. Number 3, there's open snaps to be claimed at the defensive end spot, if not a starting spot at defensive end. And you're the only rookie not participating. You're not the only one not signed. Big difference. No one's saying that he should be signed right now. If he is, whatever. If he's not until July, whatever. We want him to participate. We want to see him on the field. I'm sure the Bengals do. I'm sure he wants to be on the field, right? Any player wants to be on the field and doing what he can do to get better. So getting that advice to not do that, I don't agree with it. Getting the advice to put the spotlight on you, don't agree with it. Shemar Stewart said, and I agree with him, the Bengals are more worried about winning arguments than they are winning football games. And I'm like, dude, we have said this for years. The fact that you know it already, it's crazy. But it's awesome at the same time. He's right. He's right. We talk about this so often. Just because now he's saying it, now you don't like it. I love it. That quote is going to live for a long time. Now, I don't like him saying that he's 100% right on this. It's a give and take. It's a negotiation. Nobody's 100% right. At best, you're 55% right and they're 45, and we're going to meet at 50. That's the idea. Doesn't always work that way. So when you say, okay, the Bengals are offering something they've never done before, but not uncommon from the rest of the league. Again, I looked at contracts. I looked at comparable players drafted in the first round. I looked at comparable teams. It is not uncommon, if that's what the Bengals are offering, to offer a contract with that default language. Shemar Stewart, on the other hand, and maybe this is why he's getting support from the players in the locker room, because he is. I should say that. It sounds like he's got the support of the players. He has said it. Players have said it publicly. Ted Karras, the representative for the Bengals in the NFLPA, Players Association, has backed him up. I think the NFLPA kind of likes this. As teams have whittled away those guarantees and how ironclad they used to be, when the CBA 2011 collective bargaining agreement came out and we had the rookie wage scale, It's a huge win for the NFL, for the owners. It's kind of a loss for the players. Now, I think there's two ways to it. I thought it was a good thing. I thought the rookie wage scale was a good thing. It killed these drama-filled off seasons. It allowed rookies to have a major impact because they're hitting the ground running. They're practicing the entire off season, and we've had more rookie success than ever. You also, because they're limiting how much the rookies can make, that money's getting funneled to the veterans. And now a bigger piece of that pie goes to the veterans. Instead of Sam Bradford being the highest paid player on the Rams when he gets drafted, instead, those first overall picks are being paid well, but more of that money is there for veterans. You can build around a rookie quarterback. It helped the parity also in the NFL because more teams are drafting these guys and rebounding instantly if they're drafting their quarterback. The Bengals did this and then surrounding them with veteran talent that they can pay rather than just leaving that quarterback on an island by himself because he's the highest paid player on the team. So I think there was a lot of benefits overall for the quality of the sport in the 2011 CBA and the rookie wage scale. But it was a loss for the players and it was a loss for these rookies. They should not be giving up any more leverage, right? As a union guy of 17 years, myself, you don't give up anything. You do not give up. If they want to talk about it, open the books. Let's talk about it. We'll negotiate a new CBA right now. And they won't like that. The players, the NFL, the owners would not like that. They don't want the drama. So stop trying to take more of what we negotiated. We negotiated a lower salary for rookies, but guaranteed money. That is the win. That is a big win for players. Now you want to take guarantees away or put provisions in there that would make them less secure guarantees, not actually guaranteed. If a guy makes a mistake, don't like that. But it's happening. Most of the teams in the league are now doing this with their rookies. I don't agree with it, but it is happening. So the Bengals are also jumping on this late because most teams are doing this, like I said, but the Bengals are late in a lot of things they do. So for Shemar to say, hey, you don't do this for anyone else. Why me? That's disrespectful. I would find it disrespectful as well. Why me? Do somebody else. And now if you say like it's because of Jermaine Burton last year. What happened with Burton, the Bengals hated that. But Burton's different because he was a third round pick. He doesn't have a fully guaranteed contract. Maybe that hurt them a little and they were like, we should start applying this. We talk about ways the Bengals can save money, ways the Bengals can protect themselves, ways the Bengals can push themselves in the future years and the future tactics, the way teams around the league are doing, using tactics and pulling levers that they should be doing. The Eagles do this, right? No other team to compare to. The Eagles do it, and they're the best team with the cap and contracts. The other half is the Eagles give out a lot of guaranteed money. The Eagles give out a lot of upfront money that the Bengals don't. The Bengals give out big signing bonuses. So I'm just talking guarantees there. The Bengals don't do that. So that's the trade-off, right? Are we talking that's what it needs to come down to? Are we discussing this for no reason at all? To be honest with you. Now that you know all the details, right? We're at that point, we're getting to the conclusion. I understand both arguments. I understand what the Bengals are saying. They're saying, we want to do this. We want to start moving in this direction. Somebody has to be first. Shemar, you're going to be first. And Shemar's saying, I don't think I should have to be. I don't want to be the first guy on your roster to do this. I think we can negotiate. Both sides, and that's me talking. I think we can negotiate and figure this out. Maybe you can offset that. Maybe the Bengals can say, all right, well, your bonus money, we'll pay it to you right up front. Instead of getting it 60 days or mid-season or however they want to negotiate it, and we aren't usually privy to those details, we'll give it to you all up front, Shemar. Here you go. But we want that language in there. I think the hard part is, though, that the Bengals are tough negotiators. You ever negotiate a collective bargaining agreement with ownership and they are tough and you almost feel like you're not being respected? Here's how I could see it happening. They put it in there already. The default language where it could void his future years is already in there. And they present it to him. Here you go. And he's like, oh, I don't want that. We don't want that. So the Bengals say, okay, if we'll take it out, but we're not going to, you got to give us some of that signing bonus back. You got to give us a little bit. Well, you'll still get it, right? Because that's already figured out. But we'll give you 40% of your signing bonus now. In 60 days, you'll get 60%. Well, because we'll take it out. We'll take out that offer. So you need to give us something. Yeah, we'll take it out, but give us something to take it out. And the player side is like, what? You don't know. You put that in there. Because I'm telling you, from a collective bargaining agreement experience, they'll throw crazy stuff into an offer just so I got to negotiate those things out and actually lose things on as a whole. I can see the Bengals doing that. I don't know that they do that, but the reputation of the Bengals is not great, which is why everyone jumps on them in this scenario. I am one of the harshest critics of the Bengals. Am I not? You guys see it. You guys watch the show. If you're continuing to watch it every week, you understand what the deal is here. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to say how I feel about what they're doing, the stupid stuff they do. I don't think this is one of them. Now, you got to negotiate, and they will. And that's why he's ultimately going to be signed. They will figure out a path forward. That's the Bengals side of criticism there. Shemar Stewart side of criticism, dude, you got too much people talking through the media. Your agent, clearly, this is a guy, before the draft, many teams and evaluators were concerned about the people representing Shemar Stewart. He is not thought highly of, that agent. And then his dad talks a lot in the media and in social media. Those were looked at as negatives. Listen, do what you want, but those are seen as negatives. And now here we are right away, and we got problems. Negotiate it. You don't like something, give up something to get that back, or however you want to view that, but negotiate it. Give or take. Figure it out. It can be done. It's done every year. It's done with plenty of players. Players drafted before you and after you have this language. Maybe they got something out of it. Maybe they just didn't care. But many players that aren't signed are participating on the field. So not a good look off the field for a player that the Bengals really could use on the field to get the reps, to give him the best success. What's good for both sides? Getting the deal done, getting him as many reps as possible, and then hoping the Bengals rush the passer and get that ball back to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, Mike Gesicki. The offense looks like it's humming out there. That's exciting. Neither side looks good. They both look stupid, in my opinion. But they both have points, very good points, that I understand. So don't take sides, is my final conclusion. My final opinion, don't take sides. If you liked the player before, now you're looking for a reason to crap on the Bengals because the Bengals do stuff worth being criticized all the time. We've got enough. The counter is reset to zero. How many days since drama continues to get reset to zero? The Bengals are a clown show most of the time. I don't think they are here. If you didn't like Shemar Stewart before the draft and now you absolutely hate him, well, I think you're going too far. Overall, I think this gets done. And we're going to talk about things that probably don't matter. But it's the offseason, and we have Bengals on the brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Until next time, Hoo day. So all of that said there, I still actually feel really good about a lot of the things I said and speculated on, and that the Bengals are trying to offer something that other teams do. But again, being the first one in Shemar Stewart, they're taking a stand in that. And that's not the biggest issue. So I did talk to Shemar Stewart's agent and Zach Heiler, and I got some added context, obviously, when I did that. They're very passionate about what's happening, and they should be, because everything we've heard about the Bengals in past years, for decades, about their negotiating practices, about how they go about doing things, there's a very Bengals way about it, and they use that to their advantage, and in this case, to their disadvantage, right? That we know that their negotiating process, they dig their heels in. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to offer what they offer, and they're not going to budge, right? We remember the 2009 Hard Knocks video with Andre Smith, and I posted that on Twitter, and I retweeted it recently, and I will again. But when they're like, yeah, we just don't think we can do that. We think we're offering you fair money. We think we're offering you the normal standard contract, and that's it. Take it or leave it, right? That's how they do business. We've heard this in the past from players we like, DJ Reader, Jesse Bates, T. Higgins, and before they eventually got to deal with his agent when he moved to Jamar Chase's side. But it sounds like that's happening again. The Bengals are offering what they're offering. They're changing precedent, and they're saying, accept it. This is what we're doing. And that is a hardline stance to take. But again, from my perspective, and I mentioned this in the first 20 minutes, it sounds like they also offered this to Myles Murphy and Amarius Mims. And then eventually when the deal was signed, it wasn't in there. So the concessions happen. That's part of the negotiating process, right? I said that a few times originally. It's part of the negotiating. The Bengals actually have to negotiate in order to be part of the negotiating process. You can't get to an end goal without moving some things around. And that's the feeling I got talking to Shemar's camp, was that the Bengals have been unwilling to budge, unwilling to offer ideas, unwilling to, for example, and I brought this up, move signing bonus money around, right? The amount of money he's going to get paid is already set. But like Amarius Mims last year, Mims got half of it right away, and then he didn't get the other half until December of his signing bonus, because usually you pay it out in 2 installments. If you're offering that to me, if I'm Shemar Stewart, no, give it to me all, or give me a big portion of it now, or don't make it December when you pay the second half of the signing bonus. So there should be room to negotiate here. And it doesn't sound like the Bengals are at that stage just yet. Now, do I expect them to get there? Of course I do, because they need Shemar Stewart on the field. They need his impact. They need the help he can provide. This defensive line needs that juice. We talked about it all offseason. So I still expect it to happen and get there. Are we going to have to pull our hair out for another 5 weeks until we get there? Maybe. But it does help to have a clearer picture of what's going on. The Bengals are trying to do something the other teams are doing. They feel they're in the right. And Shemar Stewart's camp is like, all right, you're changing how you normally do it, but you're not changing the other parts, right? So for example, I'm going to try and see if I can articulate this correctly. On one half, we want to set a new Bengals precedent. We want to start putting this in everyone's contract with potential to void future guarantees. Okay, fine. But we want this. Oh, the Bengals don't do that. That's not precedent for the Bengals. We can't do that. Well, wait a second. This isn't precedent either, but you're going to tell me that. So which one is it? Right? They want their cake and eat it too. And that's what it sounds like. That's what I've gathered. So concessions will have to be made. Negotiations will have to take place. And I hope they happen before we get to training camp. Tune in next time on Bengals on the Brain, where hopefully by then we have this settled. Don't expect it, but I hope it's done by then. Until then, Ude.
Bengals fans, tired of the same old post-game chatter? Want real insight beyond the scoreboard? Then you need Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry, presented by First Star Logistics. Joe Goodberry isn't just a fan, he's a die-hard Bengals football analyst. Every week, Joe dives deep into the Bengals game film, breaking down the plays that mattered, revealing hidden strategies, and uncovering the true impact of individual performances. Get ready for post-game analysis like you've never heard before, player evaluations that go beyond the stats, and the most in-depth Bengals draft coverage on the internet. Don't just watch the Bengals, understand the Bengals. Subscribe to Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry on the First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. Get smart, get obsessed, get Bengals on the Brain.